interesting.
Whoa.
And it wasn't just like the competition either. It was that we were really going deep and studying and really getting to understand and kind of like get a deeper knowledge of the word itself. I always remember Patrick asking these deep questions, and we're all just coming in with our points and kind of like seeing like, okay, I think this is what's going on, and this is what's going on, and this is what this says. And it's not only an experience that brings you closer to God, but it forges a personal network and a personal connection with people that really to this day we're all still friends, and that bond is strong. Like, yeah, it's not just about competitions and trophies and winning and, oh, you'll get a better knowledge of the Bible. It's like you really get to know not only God himself, you get to know the people that you're studying with, you get to know your teammates, you get to have these deep discussions and kind of bounce these ideas off each other. So
that's right. That's right.
Being a lawyer, I'm sorry, do you find that you study the Bible differently, or do you go more in depth with it? How is that for you in your personal life?
As a lawyer, I actually find a lot of like connection more with the Bible, because for me, at least from my perspective, people have their different opinions, but for me, law and the Bible are both about truth. It's basically like, okay, truth. What is the truth? What is the truth of the matter? And the word itself is truth. So that's always been how I connected to it. I know there's this famous passage in Luke that says Jesus doesn't like lawyers for some reason, but I don't think it was because like, oh, it's your profession. I think it's because they don't really go past the surface of like what the black letter law says, or at least they didn't used to. But for me, that's, I think, where a lot of like the study leads to. It's like, okay, I'm not just going to read like this precedent says this. It's like, all right, what's the truth? Like, what is this really saying?
Yeah.
So I think, and a lot of the principles that the legal system's built on come from the Bible. You lie in court, it's called perjury. There's a lot of the crimes that are in the criminal code. They're pretty much written in the 10 Commandments. So
yeah.
I kind of like finding the parallel. So it's not just like, okay, you're in a profession where it's like, okay, we've kind of gotten a reputation of like, oh, you guys twist things and try to make things seem what they're not. And it's like, it's not really that. It's what is the truth of the matter? The facts can say the facts say what it is, basically. So I know people can disagree and have their opinions about it. This is just my view. And I should have added this disclaimer. Any opinions that I have do not reflect any opinions or policies or ideals or thoughts of the government of Ontario. So this is just me talking on my own. This is not the government saying anything.
Speaking of the government, you work for, sorry, can you repeat it again? The Crown
Law Office Civil.
Right. And is that something that you're just doing like you said, an internship there right now? But is that somewhere you would like to stay? Do you plan on going into a different field of like a different type of law?
I definitely would like to stay there. If they offered me a job there, it would definitely be great. The lawyers there are great. The work is always interesting, and I really do like the type of files that I've been able to work on. So I will definitely like take the chance of going back to clock if I'm offered it. But in general, I'm hoping to stay in the public service. I don't know where the Lord was going to take me, so it's mostly up to him to see where I end up.
Yeah, so you were saying that you don't know where the Lord will take you. Did you know the Lord will take you to Windsor? I mean, not Windsor, to Ottawa?
Yeah, he took Yvonne to Windsor. He took me in the opposite direction. It's like, I honestly didn't know. I just applied to almost every law school in Ontario. I don't remember if I put one in for McGill in Quebec. I think I might have, but I applied to the law schools in Ontario, and I'm just basically like, okay, I want to get into law school, but If not, then I'll go to grad school. And University of Ottawa was the first one who said, "Hey, we want you to come here." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then since I applied to their joint program with Carleton, it was kind of just waiting to see if Carleton accepted me as well, and they did.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's interesting. You have to wait for 2 acceptance letters.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So like, so at first it was like you did law school at University of Ottawa. I know you did your master's at Carleton. How did it? Is that how it worked, or what happened?
Okay, so it was really kind of it was weird how they split the program, but first year you're just at the law school doing all your first year law courses. And then your second year you're at Carleton doing the bulk of your master's degree courses or your major paper or your thesis.
Mm-hmm.
And then third and fourth year you're primarily at the law school, but you still have to take a course at Carleton. So you kind of have to schedule around like your law courses like in order to fit that one the one course from Carleton in as well. And you also had a language requirement that you needed to get done as well for Carleton.
Oh, what's that language requirement about?
So the language requirement, you need to have proficiency in a second language. Most people do French because the federal government is right there, and it's easier to get in with some form of language proficiency like French.
Yeah.
Other people choose Spanish. I think one of my colleagues even chose German. So
Whoa.
it really just depends on what language you think you're able to learn, and then go for the test at the school for the proficiency.
So you're saying you're bilingual?
Oh no, I'm not I am not completely bilingual. I'm proficient enough that I will be able to understand and write and read, but speaking is still something I'm working on. And if people speak too fast, then I really get confused. So I'm still working on becoming completely bilingual. But
wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, Christine. And just like so you know, before we had some technical difficulties, so we're good now. So just wanted to ask you like the same questions that Shante asked before, like was it like when you came and you went away for school, and your support system and mentors, who were you shouting out again?
I was shouting out my parents, especially my mom, and the rest of my family as well. My church family at Apple Creek, my church family at Ottawa Benjamin. And in particular, I have to really shout out this family. I'm shouting out the Hardys because they adopted me, took me in as one of their own. And again, you want to know decent, genuine people. Not saying Ottawa Benjamin isn't full of them, but you want people who walk the walk and talk the talk. That's the Hardys to a T.
Nice.
Yes. I think we have a question. Oh, it's not coming up. Well, we'll wait for it to come in then. Oh. No, okay, we'll just move on. All right. Sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay.
We'll wait for that question to come in. Whenever it shows up, then we'll ask you that. So we were talking a little bit about, how you got like the steps that you took, and you were mentioning, God leading you in a certain direction. And I know sometimes in law there might be conflicts in maybe your belief and what you have to and your job. So we were just wondering if you've ever encountered a case or an obstacle where you believe in one thing and the case and you had to deal with a case that was the opposite of that.
I haven't had to deal with that, fortunately, but if it does ever come across my path, I think the first thing is I would talk to my supervisor about it and talk with the lawyer on the case about it, and just kind of talk to them and explain and walk them through it, because maybe they don't understand why it would be such a big deal.
Yeah.
And then you can always, I found that when, especially with this group of articling students that I'm with, like if one of us can't take on the file because of something, then somebody else is more than willing to do it as well. So.
Okay. The question, with all the work you did for your studies, you have a new respect. Do you have a new respect for Sabbath and on the Sabbath, like the day of rest?
Oh, definitely. They always say you never appreciate Sabbath rest until you're working and until you're like really in the thick of things, and just having that 24 hours just to be like, I don't have to think about any of this stuff for a full 24 hours, and I can just rest, recharge, and connect better with God.
Yeah.
It's great. Like when your friends are all trying to study and cram like crazy on the weekends on Saturdays for exams, you're just like, I'm just sitting here and just going to church and fellowshipping with people, and it definitely gives you a much better appreciation for Sabbath and Sabbath rest. Definitely.
So that's interesting. So like when your colleagues were like cramming and you weren't, did anyone like ever approach you like, why are you not stressing about studying right now, or why is it that you take a day off or you don't stay late studying like on Friday nights or do things on Sabbath? Have anyone ever like approached you about that?
No one actually approached me about that. I don't think it's ever really come up. Mostly because like I actually met another Seventh-day Adventist who went to like U Ottawa as well. So it was like, hey, this is cool. Yeah. There are a lot of Adventists at U Ottawa. They have a whole chapter there of, I can't even remember the name, but yeah, they have a whole like little Adventist chapter there. So it's really cool.
That's nice.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. So like Christine, I hear like one of the constant themes, like common themes I'm hearing you saying is that there's a lot of reading, a lot of writing you did, and like in church at Apple Creek Home Church, you've been writing plays and all of that. It kind of shows your development in linguistics, in the literary arts, and would you say that there are parallels between the legal system, how you are involved in church, and the activities, like how it formed you into being, I would say, a good lawyer, a great lawyer?
Well, I'm not great yet. Nobody says great until they've become either senior counsel or partner, or they've gone before the Supreme Court. We're not great yet. We're always, even the great lawyers are always like working on themselves. So
wow,
we really reach this pinnacle of like, I am the greatest. It's like, no, I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes. Even the most experienced of counsel still make mistakes, but they learn from it. But how the things that I've done have linked to being to being a lawyer, it's definitely been able to help me not only like kind of write so that for your audience, because your audience is a judge who doesn't want to read tons of pages of a lawyer using big words just to prove that they read like a thesaurus. They want to know, what's the story, what's the facts, why should I side with you?
Okay. So it's not like, sorry to cut you off. I'll wait. You go ahead.
So it's really about kind of like, all right, it's like, get to the heart of the matter and kind of like, help me get there. Help me see like, what is that's there that pushes it more towards like, you're the one who's giving me like, yes, this is what, not only what the law has said, but like, this is why the law should read as this. So that's going deep into like Bible with all those deep questions that Patrick would ask has definitely helped, because you really have to drill down and be like, this is really the heart of what it's saying. This is really the heart of what is at the heart of this. So, and being able to write in a way that not only is clear to the judge, but also keeps their attention, because judges read a lot. They are reading they're not only reading your factum, which is basically like your arguments, they're reading the opposing lawyer's factum. If it's an appeal, there could be somebody intervening, so there's their factum. They're reading all this law. They're trying to figure out what these statutes say, and then they have to go find a book to interpret what the statute says. So yeah, they read a lot. So if you can make it easier for them and kind of keep them engaged and saying, oh, okay, I'm starting to see this. It's like, oh, this one fact is really what's jumping out at me. Like, wait, this defendant said this? Wait, what? Hold on, I'm going to write down some questions and ask about that because I'm having trouble with this. Or there's this point, it's like, I really want to know what this means. Like, help me understand what this means.
Yeah. Wow. And like in the Bible, I'm not sure if I've seen like where there's a lawyer in the Bible. We see how Jesus acts on our behalf. We see how prophets, elders act on behalf, give us warnings or tell us where it went wrong or right. And Jesus defended even women, or like the girl who was pregnant, or murderers, and different kind of people we probably would not really welcome in the church, if I'm being real. But like in your case, you being a lawyer, what are your thoughts about defending a murder, and would you feel comfortable defending a murder?
Okay, so oh wow, all right. So
this was a question from the chat, by the way.
Yeah. I've always liked criminal law, but I've always been more on the side of I want to be a Crown attorney, so the prosecution more than the defense, just because I've always felt more drawn to like, okay, I'm doing this in the public interest and bringing somebody did something wrong, allegedly, because all facts are alleged until they've been proven in the court of law. So this person has allegedly done something that has hurt society, has hurt this person. Somebody needs to go and tell and explain to this court why this person did it and why they should be like what the fitting punishment for it is. So for me, I've always been more on the prosecution side. But if I were to go on to criminal defense, it's first of all, everyone deserves a legal defense, no matter what they've done. It's a staple of the justice system. You have a right to have a lawyer. You have a right to present your case in court, and everyone deserves that defense. Would I feel comfortable with it? That's a little, yeah. I think you would have to be working off of the assumption that your client has either told you they did it, or all the evidence is pointing and saying, yeah, they did it. And even then, the guilt or innocence of a client doesn't preclude a defense lawyer from putting forth a defense, like to say, well, for criminal law, it's about, can you prove that they did this beyond a reasonable doubt? So that burden is, it's not like 100% they did it, but it's not like 50-50. It's like it's like more likely than not, this person did it based on all the evidence that we have.
Right.
So the defense's job is just basically, if there's a doubt in your mind that this person did it, you have to acquit them.
True.
So it's more, I understand where the question is coming from, because it's like, yeah, it's somebody who's done like one of the most heinous things you could ever do and take a life.
And also, like, you're a Christian and you have Bible beliefs, and so you could speak on it. Like, I'm hearing your side from a lawyer perspective, but also what's your side, knowing the truth and how you feel, with doing God and everything. So it's like hearing the lawyer side or hearing your side, like just Christine's side.
Just my side. My initial reaction is no, because I just could never even defend somebody I even thought did something so heinous. So that's just me personally. But again, everyone's entitled to a defense. So me personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, just because I've always been more of a prosecutorial minded person. So automatically I'm just like, no, I'm not going to defend somebody who allegedly murdered somebody. No, I just wouldn't feel comfortable with it. But I would never look down or kind of like sneer at somebody who did, because again, everyone's entitled to a defense, and we only know part of the story. So
It's true.
unless you're there in the courtroom every day listening to all the facts and all the evidence, you don't really get a full picture of what happened. So we can't just go on the assumption of, okay, if they're charged with murder, they clearly did it. Sometimes it's not that cut and dry. And as much as we praise the legal system, it does make mistakes at times. It's not it's not a perfect system by far, and it does make mistakes. So
Okay.
All right. I have another question from the chat. Have you ever encountered racism or sexism during your studies or during your articling?
Okay. We're just going in with like the deep questions tonight. Okay. I have not encountered racism or sexism in articling thus far, thank the Lord, because those experiences are horrible. I am lucky enough to have a principal in articling is basically your supervisor / your mentor. So they're there to meet with you, check in, see if everything's going all right, kind of like guide you and almost be like your sponsor in a sense when you're in like a firm or if you're working in a government ministry. So I've been lucky to work in an environment where everyone is pretty aware of racism and there's a zero tolerance culture for it. So I've been lucky with that. In terms of my studies, I wouldn't say there's been a lot. There's been a couple of ignorant comments from people, and that was more towards like First Nation students and people. But even when that happened, like people came together and stamped it out really quick because we were in an environment where it's like, hey, no. Like that kind of stuff is not going to fly. So I've been fortunate not to have experienced it yet. I hope I never do, and I hope nobody ever does, because I've spoken with my articling principal, and from what she's told me, from what others have experienced, it's really a hard thing to go through. And yeah, I've been fortunate so far, but if I ever do come across it, I will know that there are mechanisms in place, and I know that I have a support network there, not only in the office, but also with my church family and with my family here as well. So it's really important to have that support system. Do never go into something thinking it's me against the world. I'm the only one who can do this. I'm going to do this on my own.
Right.
Yeah. Always have a support system, and always make sure you're connected with the man upstairs, with God himself, because trying to go it alone, trust me, it doesn't work.
That ties in perfectly with our next question, which is, how has your walk with Jesus changed since being a lawyer, or has it changed at all?
It has definitely changed, because I'm really starting to understand God a lot more, because before things were, it's more, your faith kind of gets deeper when you're on your own and you're also the road starts getting rougher. Mm-hmm. So you really start kind of like almost wrestling with God sometimes, because you're like, okay, God, I want to go right. No, this is a really great opportunity. It's awesome. And I know this is where I want to be. So let me go right. And God's like, no, we're going left. We need to go left. And I always use the analogy of like, you're in a car with God and he has his hands on the steering wheel. And then you reach over and like are starting to yank the steering wheel in the direction that you want to go. And God's just trying to gently pull it back, like, no, I've traveled this road. I know where I'm going. Like, just trust me. Just sit back, enjoy the ride, and just trust me that I know where I'm going.
Right.
And I know where I'm taking you. So I've definitely started trusting God a little bit more than I used to, and learning to depend on him a lot more as well.
That's interesting. And like, now that you've developed more in your studies, being in the legal system, does it transfer on into like how you study the Bible more, or how you pray or understand yourself more spiritually?
Yeah, it definitely does, because not only am I there kind of as a Black woman, but also as a Black Christian woman. You're in an environment you're in an environment where the devil's going to constantly attack you. He's going to constantly like come at you in different ways. So it's really been important to develop a prayer life as well. And not only that, but also it's helped me kind of link what I've studied and what I've read in the Bible to like everyday things in my practice. So like when Jesus had told Peter, you have to forgive 70 times 7, and everyone just takes it as like, okay, just forgive unlimitedly. When you're up against people who test your forgiveness ability, when it's like, ooh, I really don't want to forgive this person because like they are just working every single human nerve I have. But it's like, no, you need to do this. This is what you are instructed to do and who you are supposed to be. So you have to forgive this person. Doesn't mean you have to trust them ever again, but you have to forgive them, because if you don't forgive them, God can't forgive you. So that's just one example of it. But you start finding a lot more parallels to the Bible in real life, at least I've found. So.
Yeah. And like, oh, new question from the chat. Do we have sentencing minimums in Canada? If yes, as a prosecutor working for the Crown, do you think that this is to be used against Black people?
Oh man, y'all just coming with the deep questions tonight. So I'm not a prosecutor. I work on the civil side, so we don't do anything with criminal law. So I'm not the one who does anything with sentencing. I just use criminal law as an example. I'm not a prosecutor. I work on the civil side, so I deal with class actions, and well, I don't, but I work with lawyers who deal with class actions, who deal with negligence cases, that kind of stuff. So to answer that question, I'm not a prosecutor. As for mandatory minimum sentencing, the Liberal government just started legislation to repeal those. So I believe we won't have them. They're still on the books until the repeal is passed. So at least that's from what I've heard from the news. So yeah, we did have them. We won't have them any longer, though. At least from what I've heard in the media, that it seems like the Liberal government in Ottawa is repealing them and saying, yeah, we're not doing this.
Of course. Yeah.
Another question here. With your experience through school and your work, is there something you think is really important for churches to do or to keep doing to support the youth?
I think what the most important thing churches can do, especially for youth going away, make sure you stay in contact with them. Like, call them, FaceTime them. I think one of the benefits that's going to come out of COVID is nobody has an excuse not to use Zoom anymore. We are all starting to now learn how to use Zoom and all these different types of platforms. So there's really now no more excuse for why you can't like pick up a phone and call like a youth and say, hey, I know you're kind of feeling like maybe you're feeling a bit isolated. You want to go to my house for lunch on Sabbath. Like really just take an interest in not only them, but in their well-being, but also what they do. Like churches are great places for networking. Like churches are great places for networking, especially I found in Ottawa because federal government's right there and a lot of people in the churches work for the government. So if you're looking to go and work in a certain area, people can help you link up and people are willing to help you link up as well. But for churches, like really kind of have like that kind of focus on not only just bringing the youth into your church and keeping them there, but also really just making sure that they're developing physically, emotionally, spiritually, always like making it feel like a home for them. Make it feel like it's not like they never left home. They just left one home and were able to come and find another that's treated them like family as well. And that was what was really important for me and what really did impact a lot of my journey as well, because I really did feel at home with Ottawa Benjamin. So churches really focusing and bringing that attention back onto like, we're going to connect with the youth and not just kind of be a little bit hit and miss with when we are like constant connection, constant communication and just genuine interest in what they're doing and what they're struggling with. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So,
And that's a good line to end with, right? So
I just had one last question because you mentioned it when we were talking earlier about what we found interesting. When you're doing a case and when it closes, are you free to speak about that case once it's done, or is it kind of restricted access?
It's a little bit restricted just because with government, you don't want really, again, this is me talking, not any official position from the government of Ontario. So with government, you want people speaking in one clear voice so that you're not getting 7 different stories from 7 different people and mass confusion and the public doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's more of like we don't really talk about them because, well, we're the ones just arguing the case, and government wants to speak with one voice about this is what we're saying and not get 7 different opinions from 7 different people. And it's like, so what are you saying? It's more about clarity than it is about like, well, we don't want you talking. It's more, we don't want the mass confusion because that's just a problem.
Yeah.
So whatever's put out into the media, that's the extent that can be shared with the public.
Well, from the lawyers, yes.
Yeah.
It's like whatever they have, whatever's put out is what's put out by the government, and yep, we don't have any comments on cases.
Okay. Awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the youth today, Christine, before we close off, or any wise words, or any more wise words, I should say?
Definitely, if you're meant to be somewhere, you will be there no matter what obstacles come in your way. And I really stress this. Go into a career and go on a path because that is what you want, and what God wants as well. Not because your parents are telling you go this way because it's a prestigious profession or it's going to make you a lot of money, because your parents are not going to be working that job for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
You are going to be there and you are going to have to live with it. So go where your passions lead. I'm always going to say, well, have a backup plan in case things like your ideals, like something goes wrong, like something doesn't work out, have a backup, but go in the path where God is calling you. And it really does depend, and it really does matter that you connect with him and talk with him about like, okay, God, where do you want me to go? Kind of have a frank discussion of, you've given me these talents and I like these subjects, I'm strong in these subjects. Like, okay, God, where do you want me to go? And if God wants you to go that way, the doors will open.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, just, I know it sounds cliche, but do you. it really is like between you and God. I'm not saying like your parents are always wrong about going into certain careers. I'm not going to say that. Listen to their advice, but then at the end of the day, it is your choice, and where you want to go is where you feel that you will succeed. Your success is not determined by the amount of money you have, or if you're living Harvey Specter's life from Suits, which is a myth. Most lawyers do not live like Harvey Specter. They do not. Even though some lawyers act like Harvey Specter, but that's neither here nor there. But really just leave it in God's hands. He'll take you to where you need to be. And sometimes sometimes where he needs you to be is better than where you thought would be best for you to be. So
awesome.
That's kind of my wisdom, if you can call it that.
That's very appreciated.
Yeah.
Very appreciated. We learned a lot. We got to know some interesting stuff about you, your life, what brought you here. And we're happy that we're all still connected right at home at Apple Creek. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Christine, for joining us tonight. And we really appreciate it. And I hope the youth got something from all the things that you mentioned today, and that they go home with with that and those things in mind.
Oh yeah. If anybody has questions about law or anything, just feel free to reach out. Yeah, definitely. I will definitely love talking to people. And there are also really great people in the church that you can talk to as well. Like if you're looking at like personal statements, I give shout outs to Elise Beckles because she literally saved my life with it. I'm not even kidding. So there are people in your church family who, if you approach them, they'll have your back and they will definitely help you, or at least if they themselves can't help you, they will definitely point to people who can.
Nice. Thank you. All right.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Christine, what an amazing interview. I learned so much, and you carried out and shared so wonderfully. And I want to also thank our wonderful interviewers, Shante and Gabby. They are our two AY leaders. And I want to say that our AY team here, our Adventist youth team here at Apple Creek, are really leading the way. We are using a brand new platform. With all the COVID restrictions, it had changed the nature of some of our interviews. So we're trying some new technologies. We had a little bit of trouble getting online in the beginning, but the good news is this entire program is going to be recorded, or has been recorded, and will be put up on the website for later viewing. So even if you came in late, you haven't missed a thing. So I just want to thank you. We're going to have a closing prayer soon, but I just want to remind you all that tonight is actually the beginning of almost like a youth weekend, if you will. We started with the Lighthouse, which comes on every couple of weeks, so watch for that. This is our brand new reopening of the Lighthouse. As you can see, we get people that are making a difference in our community. And tomorrow we have Youth Day. And we're going to have a very fascinating, interesting sermon by Pastor Daniel Innocent from Ottawa Seventh-day Adventist Church. And our youth will be giving homage to those that have come before, helping to build up Apple Creek. We've been doing Black History all month, and we're going to culminate with this program. So I encourage you to join us on YouTube, our website, even on Facebook. Just make the subscribe and you will be able to catch our services and be blessed by it. So just want to thank you all for joining us for our relaunch in 2021 of the Lighthouse. We're hoping to see you all again very soon. Now I'm going to turn it over for our closing prayer and end of program. Thanks very much for watching.
All right, so let's bow our heads and close our eyes for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father God, thank you for blessing us with another day. Thank you for blessing Christine with the opportunity, the motivation, and the drive, the skills to continue on her path of in law and thriving in it. Please bless our youth with the drive as well to continue down wherever their passions lie, wherever they want to continue in, regardless of other people's opinions. And please help us go down that path with your guidance. Please let the church all come together and so we can continue in fellowship and continue to support each other so that we can all continue to thrive within our faith and within our studies. And please bless us every single day within these troubling times. Let us continue to do our best wherever our paths all lead. And thank you for everything you've done for us and will continue to do for us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.